As you can see there, just behind the camera, there's actually a woman that's actually collecting the flower boards, which is interesting. We don't actually know if she's the one that actually made the flower board or not, but that is a proper disassembly that we're trying to look for as well. There's a careful thought of process. Yeah, just really interesting. We just found this on the road as well. This is definitely what we're looking for in the community as well. So as you can see, there is an existence of some sort of people out there actually just scavenging these flower boards. So yeah, just an interesting detail, might be useful for the community itself.
So, welcome to the video. This is the last week of our school, and we're going to explain a few things. Our project focuses on styrofoam and the dangers of styrofoam itself. So, in the grand scheme of things, there's an estimation from SWI that 10% of plastic waste is recycled, and that is an estimation of less than 1 million tons of plastic will be recycled every year. But there's an estimation of around 15 to 30% that actually leaks to rivers, lakes, and even the sea itself. This is taken from Sea Circular. Now, realize that the word styrofoam isn't even mentioned yet. This is because there's no apparent sources or concrete numbers to actually lead how much styrofoam is in maritime pollution or even land pollution or even the air itself. Because in a sense, styrofoam is actually those small plastic particles that has been expanded. So recently this year, from the Jakarta Post, there is a project called the Antella Project, which is a youth environmental group that focuses on cleaning up beaches. And they actually just started to realize that styrofoam is a big thing, and that's the most waste they found in these beaches. But they realized that not a lot of people are talking about it, and that's why we as a group, we're trying to bring more awareness to this project as well. Now, how does this connect to our community, the floral community? Well, first of all, Indonesia has the second largest biodiversity in the whole world. This means that we have a lot of agriculture products, especially floral products. It runs in our GDP as well. One of the most important aspects is our florists. They create these biodiverse products as real-life consumer goods, right? They run the economy. They have a linear economic model, to say so. All right, these things mostly end up in landfills, but we really want to stress this out in our video because we believe that flower boards are the last thing in people's minds. You see them in the roads, you see them in landfills, but yet no one's talking about them because maybe we as a society don't really know what to do with this. Preface. Do we throw them away in landfills or do we make them into different products? We don't know, but we're here to find out. So stay tuned.
Jadi misalnya nih pembeli udah selesai pakai papannya ya, maksudnya kalau udah selesai acara atau udah selesai masa yang gitulah, pokoknya udah selesai pemakaiannya lah. Ini ibu ambil papannya lagi balik ke sini atau enggak?
Ada yang ngambil, nanti saya juga ada beli kadang-kadang, tapi saya milih, tidak salah-salah. Papannya jelek saya nggak mau.
So ibu beli lagi papan
sama yang ngambil-ngambil ke gedung itu.
Oh, berarti emang ada
mengumpulin
orang tertentu yang mengambil semua ini lagi.
Bukan dari kita. Saya nggak mau.
They cannot be recycled or reused effectively to a different material or product, and that's due to the fact that it's already been used to. It's been damaged too much to be effectively used again. So that's the first point. The second point is the fact that modern florists these days are not the same as the older, more experienced florists, obviously, but it's more of the fact that they don't understand the usage of color, the usage of typography effectively, and the types of flowers that they use for these boards are completely different.
Everyone, today me and Irving is visiting Eco Park in Ancol. We are here to discover nature itself, how nature works, how everything blends together in one, and we want to find something out for our biomimicry. Hopefully, attending today can help us further research for the flower boards and maybe change the way they work, the way they look, and overall make them maybe sustainable, right?
So after our trip in Eco Park, we discovered a lot of plants and we put them in our visual diary, which is interesting, ranging from cacti and shrubs and the explanation of man and nature. The most important one we found is a rainbow eucalyptus, which is this tree that has a lot of color for the bark and stuff. But overall, we didn't really find what we needed for, this solution, this community. And since our scope is about how we dispose the flowerboard correctly, we've been approaching Echo Park in the wrong way. So after a few days of, researching and finding different alternatives, we found one thing that's really important. We found a process that's called monocarpia or monocarpic. It's basically the process of which a plant only flowers once in their lifetime and then they die out. But what's interesting is that when they die out, they actually germinate the seeds. So in a sense, it's a circular economy, and it's also a regenerative plant and process. So with this in mind, how do we apply flowerboards in the equation, right? So we found a tree in the Central America. It is called the Tachigeli versicolor, or it's called as the suicide tree by the Amazonians. So this species of tree is actually found in Costa Rica to even Western Colombia. It's an important tree as it not only serves as timber for the people, but it is also for the Native Americans for healing and medicine. But what's important is when they die, they only leave their bark, which means that people don't have to cut the tree down and kill it because it just dies on its own. And second is that when it dies, it releases and germinates from around 30,000 to 50,000 seeds all over the environment, which makes it a regenerative tree, right? So with this concept in mind, and for our biomimicry, we're gonna use a flowerboard as the tree itself. So how do we make a flowerboard spread its seeds, its components? As we know that the flowerboard only has 5 components, so we count it as the 5 seeds. And in this in mind, we also want to make a community. The community is, you will see it later on. It's gonna be amazing. But for now, let's talk about the boring stuff, the process of the germination itself. So when the flowerboard germinates, when it finds its end cycle, we're gonna make it go to recycling depots and other businesses that needs these components. Not only that, we're gonna make a take-back program with this biomimicry in mind. So this take-back program applies the fact that we will have these flowerboards taken back to this community, and they will be disassembled or stripped apart of its parts to be sold back to the community and to the external society itself. You're gonna see the runs and the processes that we're gonna put in this community. But for now, that is the biomimicry we have chosen for our project. So thank you. Okay, so now that the boring stuff is out of the way and you've now know what is monocarpia and monocarpic, the Tachigeli versicolor, blah, 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 who cares, right? You're bored. So now we're actually gonna see the place on how we're gonna apply the biomimicry. How do we make a biomimetic community that is efficient, self-sufficient, and also a place for the government to fund this sort of traditional market setup? So let's go. So here we are at the flower community, or what's gonna be the flower community. As you can see here, this space is exactly as what we imagined what the flower community needs. Not only that, we're literally in a parking lot. Isn't that awesome? So over there, the whole scale from our prototype that we're gonna show, and all the drone shots that we're gonna show, shows a lot of space and circumference for the flower community. It's gonna be a thriving flower market, florists, and blue-collar workers alike. We think that this parking lot itself is already a good place to start for blue-collar workers to not only send flowerboards to the cities, to suburban homes and new businesses, but also to take back and have a place to store them. So it's really amazing. This is also maybe a sorting center of some sort. And not only that, this is a consumer parking space. So this is great. And around that corner in the greenery that we're going to show through the drone shot is going to be where the flower community is. We're going to put some mock-ups and you're going to see it firsthand. So you can see here, the river surrounds this makeshift island in the middle of Gulf Island 2, or an extension of it. It's its own system. As you can see, it's a running river from all around this place that we're going to show you through the drone shot. So why did we choose this place? You know, like from all the places, why North Jakarta? Why Gulf Island? Blah, 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 blah. No, it's not because I like Bic. That's crazy. It's because this place is new, first of all right? There's gonna be a lot of thriving businesses. We're gonna show you along the way, by the way. There's gonna be a lot of new houses, new buildings, new offices, new communities, new people. And guess what they need? They need a flower board. That's just how we Indonesians are. Putting this community in this place is so strategic, guys. We're gonna cut so much carbon emission. We're gonna cut so much transport. The consumers can just go here when they start a new business, maybe a kilometer, 2 kilometers away from here. This is a new city. It's a new home. It's a new community for new Indonesian people. Okay? When you think of the city in Jakarta, it's too crowded. There's too many people. You know, it's too dense. But here, roads are too big. More shrubs than people. So it's really important to understand that pick 2 is just the start. There's going to be pick 3, 4, 5 till 9. Can you imagine if you're going to bring a flower board from the city to pick 9? That's almost 50 kilometers, ladies and gentlemen. Right here, 15. And there's no traffic. So just think about that for a second, you know. It's not about not wanting to be in a city to cut more, you know, petrol or more gas. It's really about the efficiency of a car going through these roads. Okay? There's just less traffic here as well. All right, so from the prototype itself, you saw there were 3 layers, all right? The first outer layer is like the bark of a tree. It's where people are gonna see what the community looks like. It's gonna be flower markets. Flower markets are beautiful. There's so many colors, there's so many diversity. People are gonna be welcoming. The community looks welcoming when there's flowers outside. That's why we chose it to be in an outer layer. The second layer are the florists, the vendors, the one that makes the boards. Why is this important? Just like a tree, they are the living system inside the tree. They run the economy, you know, they make it a circular economy in that sense. Not only do they buy the flowers directly from the flower markets from the outer layer, they're also gonna buy the sorted reusable components from the inner layer, which brings us to the inner layer. This is actually the seed or the monocarpic biomimicry that we're gonna talk about. So the seed of the sorting center, which grows out like a tree, they're gonna resell the components back to not only the vendors or anyone that needs it in the community, but they also get sorted to the sorting centers. You know, the reusable components after disassembly will be sent to recycling centers, to local businesses that signed up for the flower community's system in place by the government. And yeah, so the flower community is made out of 3 layers, remember that, and they all work in unison. And that's the beauty of our biomimicry as well as this community. As you can see in this compilation of us making the system thinking, there was a lot in mind, because from the module itself, we realized systems thinking is about looking at the big picture, right? Seeing it as a whole. How does this community and the prototype that we've just shown a few seconds ago affect the environment, people, and profit? Basically 3 Ps and other sustainable principles we've studied in the past 11 weeks. As you can see, the pros of this project or this community is that we give more jobs. We make probably the mentality or the stability of people better in terms of physical and mental. We also develop and cultivate flower boards as a culture. This can appeal to the 7th generation principle that we're going to bring forth. This is also important because we are focusing and supporting local businesses as they get more cost-efficient materials, not only florists, but other businesses as well. We call them as local businesses or UMKM. But the cons-wise is that this is a short-term solution, as we've seen in the systems thinking. This is a short-term solution because in the end of the day, there is still styrofoam that's going to be thrown away. This is not only from arbitrary trash, but also the fact that, well, yeah, styrofoam, there's a time limit in how much you can reuse it. Secondly, climate change can only be halted for a while, but overall it's still adding up. Emissions will still happen. People still will get sick and then they will still die, sadly, right? But other than that, the cons are still mainly about the layout itself. As you can see from our prototype, the layout is quite tight. There's around 1,288 people in our community, as we counted in our own way. So it's quite tightly packed, even though the area diameter is around 50,000 meters square. It's a fire hazard. And lastly, is the most important is that there needs to be a government support at all times. There needs to be a checkup on all times, because if we don't have that, the community is going to end up as a slum, just like every other market in Jakarta that is not taken care of. Buildings that start to deteriorate, people start to corrupt, and yeah, you know, the basic Indonesian thing. So that's our systems thinking in the overall grand scheme of things. Next is we're going to show you our shareholder or our sustainable assessment. As you can see, just a real quick preview. That's basically what we talked about in systems thinking as well. For further details, it's going to be in the report, so don't worry about it. And yeah, let's conclude what we have. So, in conclusion, this biomimetic community is a short-term solution. Okay, let's get that clear here. Okay, in the 3 Ps, in the grand scheme of things, we are appealing a lot to the people and the people and profit or price, because we're helping local businesses, we're helping the GDP increase and the economy and all that. The people get more jobs. There is more culture for the 7th generation principle. There might be still flower boards by that time, hopefully. The problem is we didn't appeal that much to the planet because, well, in the end of the day, it's a flower board. Okay, guys, it's still styrofoam. In the end of the day, we can only prolong its lifespan, as I said in this project. In the end of the day, it might end up in the landfill or somewhere else. But just be glad that with this community, we are prolonging not only the culture of the Indonesian people, but also this product itself. It's gonna halt or kind of delay more maritime pollution or land pollution, and maybe to start this kind of sorting system that we're developing in being more productive with the local economy, maybe inspire a few things in the future. You know, maybe we'll sort more trash, we'll disassemble things more effectively. But yeah, at the end of the day, this is a traditional market with traditional values, and we appeal to people like Ibu Yasmin, the one we interviewed, to, you know, help her cultivate not only her skills but a place for her skills to develop. So that's what we always had in mind for the flower community. And to end this project swiftly, it's you tell it with flowers. You know, you can learn a lot of things from flowers, but most importantly is a sustainable solution in a flower board is just not possible. But that's fine, because at the end of the day, science advances and we might find another solution. So thank you, and I will hear your complaints, miss.